Well, good day and welcome back. Well, actually, it's a bit cloudy. Anyway, we just got back from the workshop and we just finished installing rear shocks and springs. Old Man EMU load springs because the old springs were completely gone. They didn't have any more tension in them. That side was drooping. So only by changing the springs, we gained back 11 centimeters of clearance, ride height, and actual suspension travel. We also changed the shocks with brand new Old Man EMU shocks, which makes an entire world of difference. The change in ride quality was instantaneous. So right now we're going to be moving back into my own shop and we're going to be changing the front shocks. We're not going to be fussing about with the torsion bars just yet though. Changing out shocks isn't technically that hard. We just have to take care of 2 bottom bolts and then loosen up the top one, pull the old shocks out and put the new ones in. We only see one pretty much here, but there's a bottom bolt right there and we're gonna have to move all the way in there to get the top one. That's the shock absorber right there. We're gonna be swapping these out with brand new Old Man EMU shocks. There we go, we're in the workshop. Okay, I was kind of worried we didn't have enough clearance here, but we have plenty, so I'm good with that. Next thing, I'm going to show you what we're going to be using and what you might need to do this job yourself. We're going to raise the front end, so you're going to need a bottle jack or even better a floor jack, but we don't have one of those. And we won't have one of those as we're traveling, so I'm okay with using the bottle neck jack. We're going to raise the front end, remove the tires, and get to work. Well, here's what we're going to be using and what you probably would need to do this job yourself. Keep in mind, this is the first time I do this job and I'm just crossing my fingers. I've watched plenty of YouTube videos and I'll put a link to those right down there in the description so that you guys can check those out too. But here's the tools I'm going to be using and that I travel with most of the time. A decent tool set, something to take your tires off. That's not what we use traveling. We have a slightly more compact version of that. Some WD-40, Loctite, measuring tape, torque wrench, a bottleneck jack, some jack stands, and I suggest wearing gloves, but I can't find mine because somebody took them. Well, before you jack up the car, make sure you loosen up all the bolts on the wheels. Otherwise, you're going to be risking a couple things, including pushing over your car once it's jacked up. So I just did that both sides, so 12 bolts in total. And we're going to go ahead and jack it up now. I placed it right in the middle of this cross member right here, which also supports the front differential. This is going to allow me to jack up the car, the whole entire front axle, and we're going to be supporting it with jack stands over the chassis or this cross member itself. That's a pain in the ass. Okie doke. Okay, so we got the tires off and I put one of them under the chassis of the car for safety and security reasons. And now you can see the wheel well. The shock is right here. It's supported by bolts at the bottom and one up top. So we're going to be removing this dust cover right here to gain access. And you can see where the shock mounts up right there. So we're going to be loosening up that and the shock should come out very, very easily. Should. Well, after about an hour, well, less than an hour, just about 15 minutes I guess, of toiling with these damn screws, I managed to get them out. The bottom ones, and particularly the top nuts, these were pretty hard to get off because the bottom nut just kept turning with the entire upper part of the shock. So some little bit of brute force and hands holding down the shock down here. You can see clean, kind of. And that came off. The locking nut came off quite easy too. Now we're going to be removing the shock and fitting in the new one. So we're going to need to compress the shock and sneak it out. Okay. These shocks have still retained their strong rebound. Okay. I think I'm gonna have to lift it actually. Oh, yeah. There we go. Woo! It's out. Now you see what the problem was? These were absolutely gone. Gone, gone, gone. So it's good that we're replacing these with awesome, well, what I read they are, Old Man EMU shocks. This shouldn't happen for another 200,000 kilometers, I hope. Whilst the upper end bushings were still pretty good actually. I'm not gonna throw these away. These are good to keep. So let's get the new ones in now. You know what? I'm just gonna clean up that bottom part right there before we go ahead. I'm just gonna use some regular degreaser here. Give it a good whack. Give it a few seconds. Paper towels, always useful. Stick my hand in there. There we go. Okay. Beer. Any good weekend mechanic has a beer as he's working. At this point, those of you who have already done this job before will have noticed my mistake. I should have rotated that shock absorber 180 degrees just to make sure that the angle of the mounting point of the shock absorber aligns with the angle of the lower control arm. Yeah. I couldn't get the bolts back in there, and I learned the hard way. I didn't do the same mistake on the other side. So I'm going to jack up the suspension arm because the bottom bolts don't align. Jacking up the lower control arm will definitely make your life easier. It will decrease the difference in angle between the shock absorber mounting points and the holes which are actually on the lower control arm. Well, with a complete strike of luck, I got one of those two bolts in, which allowed me to eventually get the second one in. It took way longer than I anticipated. I'm talking about an hour and a half just to get those two bolts back in. But, you know, we're here now. We're just going to work on the top end, wrap up this side of the suspension. This is the driver's side. And move on. Much room. Oh, I guess that's gonna be it. Okay. Self-locking nut. I'm not using a socket because they're not going to be deep enough. I see the same earlier problem occurring. Damn thing is twisting. The solution to that problem is grab a set of pliers and grab onto that little top part that's poking out from the top nut and consequently screw down the nut itself. It took me a while to figure out, but in the end I got the result I wanted. I worked through the night. Well, not really. I just worked a couple of hours until dark came, and I couldn't make videos anymore. But, you know, I did a job, left it jacked up so I can show you what exactly the steps are that you have to take to change your own shock absorbers on this model of cars anyway. Take note that the Mitsubishi Pajero has a similar, if not exactly the same setup. The front shocks are probably different in how they attach or mount. But for a Hyundai Galloper, this is the way to do it. I couldn't get my torque wrench in the bottom two bolts, so I torqued them down by guesstimating. They're pretty tight, not too tight, but they shouldn't budge. I'll double check after I do a shakedown run. Top nut is adjusted accordingly to the bushings that you put in. Same on the other side, just exact the same steps. It's take the wheels off, take out 3 bolts, compress the shock, remove the old shock, put the new shock in, and do up all the bolts again. That's pretty much it. It's a couple of hours job if you've never done it before, like me, but it's definitely within the reach of most people. If you have a couple jack stands in a garage or a driveway, you can get down there and do it and knock it out in a couple of hours. I hope this video was helpful. Thank you for watching. We're going to be doing new, better videos soon.